Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, let's just get the tripod situated here and I do another video. This video is going to be about alcoholism, and although it's going to be about alcoholism, or the focus of it is going to be about alcoholism, it really can be applied to pretty much any addiction, because all addictions are pretty much the same. It just comes down to the difference with an addiction is the substance. And certain substances are a hell of a lot more dangerous than others. Alcohol compared to tobacco. I actually think alcohol is far more dangerous than tobacco. It kills more people. In my opinion, it can make a noble man and turn him into a fool. Make him say a bunch of stuff that he'll end up regretting. Alcohol can make you ruin relationships with loved ones. It's not a good thing. So it's not necessarily that alcohol is the enemy here. It's our own addictions that are causing this strife. And I have a handful of videos about alcoholism in my archive, nowhere near enough. The videos that seem to help people the most on this channel are related to alcoholism. And that's a beautiful thing, because if I can attempt to inspire people by talking about this subject, to get clean, and to even if these videos just inspire you to look at your situation if you're an alcoholic from a different light. If I can get you to question what it is you're doing, there's a good chance that you're going to feel motivated to get clean. So, fortunately, the lighting isn't very good out here, you guys. But let's see if we can get the tripod set up. Now, I'm redoing, not necessarily redoing, but due to the fact that I have a new direction with my channel, and due to the fact that I'm not going to be cussing and using profanity, I wanted to redo, excuse me, just trying to get the tripod set up. I wanted to do a vulgarity-free alcoholism video about delirium tremens and withdrawals, and even touch upon hangovers, and just talk about addiction, you guys. In order for you, if you're an alcoholic, to change your ways, you're going to have to either sit down with yourself and have an honest discussion with your soul, essentially, and realize that you're going down a very dangerous path and that it leads to nowhere good. Or, like me, you're going to have to be led to cataclysm in order to motivate you to change. Now, that's the most dangerous way to get clean. And what I mean by that, being led to cataclysm, is that many alcoholics don't feel motivated to actually even think about putting the bottle down until some type of situation happens where they do something really wrong, such as, but not limited to, getting in a vehicle and, getting a DUI, or crashing into another car, hurting someone. For me, I ended up, personally, going through some serious symptoms where my liver felt really inflamed, and I thought I was going to die, so I decided to stop drinking. And when I decided to stop drinking, even for a short period of time, I went through the nastiest withdrawals, littered with hallucinations, both visual hallucinations and auditory hallucinations. And for those who don't know what auditory hallucinations are, they're when you hear things. And that's very common with extreme alcohol withdrawals. Extreme alcohol withdrawals, depending on the severity, are known as delirium tremens. And delirium tremens is the most dangerous form of alcohol withdrawals. And it's where you experience the most nasty and hellacious symptoms. So, due to the fact that I was drinking so much in my 20s, a lot of people will try to get on my channel and tell me, oh, there's no way you went through the DTs. you weren't drinking long enough. You have no clue how much I was drinking. If you knew how much I was drinking, you'd be able to go, okay, I understand where this guy's coming from. I was drinking so much vodka. I was drinking from the moment I got up to the moment I went to bed for about half of my run-in with alcoholism. I mean, it was my religion, essentially. Alcoholism was my religion, and getting my hands on a bottle was the most important thing to me. My religion, my God, was a bottle. It was pathetic. And I used it to create a false sense of reality whereby I could numb myself. And well, I mean, when you get into a pattern of numbing yourself to deal with reality, it can make becoming sober so difficult, because you no longer have a substance to make you feel more comfortable while you're here doing whatever it is you're doing. I mean, if you're trying to hold down a job and you're an alcoholic, you've really got to, if you're drinking a lot, you guys, you've really got to start asking yourself if this is worth it. Now, the first time I relapsed, I'd been away from the bottle for so long that I didn't, my liver had regenerated to a large extent. My body had been away from alcohol for so long that when I relapsed, I went, this is okay. I've been away from the bottle for so long. I can afford to drink if I want to. I deserve a reward, this and that. There's so many illusions that the mind and the addicted mind will come up with to try to coerce you back into your addictions. In my opinion, there's a spiritual side to this, and there's a negative realm within the spiritual realm that tries to lead you back to your addictions, you guys. Addictions serve no one. It doesn't serve you. So what is it serving? What is it serving? So this is going to be a long-winded rant, so I got a little bit of water here. I'm going to do my best to break this discussion into different sections. Again, I wanted to touch upon things like hangovers and go a little bit deeper about the DTs. There's a lot to say, but if you're watching this video, there's a good chance, if you've made it this far in this video, that you're here because you have an addiction. And I hope by elaborating upon the mistakes that I've made, hopefully it can motivate you to change your direction before you end up making the same mistakes that I've made, or even worse. Because once you start drinking every night, once you start completely just submitting your will to alcohol, it eventually gets the best of you in one way or another. Whether that be you accidentally taking your life, overdosing, drinking too much and killing yourself, destroying your liver and your digestive system, destroying your bloodstream and your nervous system with all the booze, or whether that be you getting drunk one night and, accidentally doing something stupid, winding up in jail for the rest of your life, like getting in a vehicle and killing someone or a family. Every time I hear about a drunk driving accident, 9 times out of 10, the driver ends up living and then ends up killing pretty much everyone in the vehicle, whether that be one person or a family. So imagine doing that. Now you get to sit in a prison cell for your whole life because you wanted to drink some alcohol and get behind the wheel. If you're a drunk driver, you got to stop what you're doing. You've got to question what it is you're doing. When alcohol is involved, it almost always, if you're a heavy drinker, makes you feel like you're invincible, like, oh, that could never happen to me. Everyone who's gotten into a serious accident or done something wrong with alcohol had a similar framework of thinking. That'll never happen to me, blah, blah, blah. So, again, you guys, I'm going to go off on a bunch of different subjects, but it's all going to be related to alcoholism. But like I said earlier, you could superimpose this over any addiction and derive benefit from it. But again, it's going to be a long-winded rant, so I hope that even though this video may not be too exciting, it can stimulate you and make you think. There's been a handful of people who have contacted me about my alcoholism videos, the Delirium Tremens rants, you name it, and said that they've motivated those people to get off drinking and now they're sober. I've even had a few people who have said that those videos have helped save their lives. That's awesome. That makes me feel really good. And although I go off on a bunch of different subjects on this channel, the whole alcoholism thing and addiction thing is a huge part of health, and this is a health channel. So, but again, the first time I relapsed, I was so disappointed in myself because it felt like all the momentum I had made up until that point was completely shattered. I remember sitting in my room and getting intoxicated, and while I was drunk, just going, "Oh, I've missed this. This is great. I feel what have I been missing out on?" Until that next morning when I woke up, when the alcohol was out of my bloodstream for the most part, and now I could think with my real mind again and realize that I just ruined something really great. So again, there's people out there who can drink responsibly. Personally, I'm not one of them. People will say, "Oh, you can just develop some willpower, learn to do it." No, it's not worth it. It really isn't. For some of us, complete abstinence is the key. But again, relapsing, you guys, what I've learned about relapsing is that you'll have to bear with me. I didn't get much sleep these last 2 days, but what I learned from relapsing is it's how you pick yourself up after you've fallen that defines whether you're being a man or a little boy. It's how you dust yourself off and get back on track that says a lot about who you are. You could choose to dwell on the fact that you've relapsed, or you can use it as a stepping stone for growth, for your own personal evolution. But again, you guys, I just want to say it one more time. I'm going to be jumping around a multitude of topics, but it all is going to make it's all going to come full circle. But one of the things that I remember beating myself up about when the day after I had relapsed was, I had made all this progress, and now I've got to start over on day one again. Day one, when I had accumulated so many months of sobriety. But again, what you'll learn if you have the will and the desire, and if you love yourself enough to not get back into your addictions if you've relapsed, what you'll learn is that the first day, the first week, the first 2 days, the first 2 weeks are half the journey. If you can make it through that initial period, you've won half the battle. It's the first few days that define whether or not you're going to make it or not. And this is no joke. Alcoholism is no joke. Personally, I'm almost shocked that this stuff is even legal. So it does so much destruction. It kills so many people. Again, it'll make a noble man appear as a total fool. It can destroy your trajectory in life. It can throw you off course. It's essentially you throwing yourself off course. But alcoholism is just not a good tool, you guys. And I mean, I have all the respect for people who can responsibly drink and have 1 to 2 drinks and say, "No, I don't need any more." And personally, I don't have that filter. And I become a raging alcoholic. I'm not the good type of alcoholic who's all lovey-dovey. I'm a completely different person when I'm intoxicated than I am when I'm sober. So, yeah, I'm a perfect example of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. What you've got to learn is you've got to keep the Hyde Jekyllized and just say no to alcohol if you're a drunk. So, I mean, I did so many of the most insane, just stupidest thing, the most stupid things, you guys, when I was intoxicated. And I hurt so many loved ones. I said so many things that I can never take back. And again, it wasn't until I was confronted with some health issues that I decided to try to get sober. And once I did that, the withdrawal symptoms kicked in, and I was introduced to my own personal hell that I had built for a prolonged period from drinking so much alcohol. When my body lacked the ethanol that it was used to receiving, I went through just an absolute nightmare. I mean, the hallucinations that I went through, the things I was hearing, the way my heart was pounding, the way that my feet would turn blue, parts of my body would turn blue. I had this weird red patch that looked like a rash that would crawl around my skin. I felt like I was being possessed. But it wasn't until after I actually got through this experience that I realized that it was for a good reason. It actually scared me into submission. You don't want to get yourself to that point, you guys. If you're a heavy drinker, don't get yourself to a point where you're going to be forced to learn from fear of dying. And that's what it comes down to. The withdrawals are so bad, if you're a heavy drinker, that when you stop putting ethanol, also known as alcohol, into your system, you fear for your life so much because of what's going on in your mind and what your body feels like, that it actually keeps you from even being able to sleep. So you can try as much as you want to sleep. For me, I just couldn't do it. And you know, the more I looked it up, the more I found out that this is a very common thing. I mean, your heart's pounding. It'll go from pounding really hard to getting normal, then to getting really low. It feels like your innards are being ripped apart. You feel like you've just completely destroyed your body. But oftentimes that's not the case. But I highly suggest that if you're a heavy drinker, you seek yourself some professional advice. I'm not a doctor. I'm not someone who's adept in the field of alcohol recovery. I just know what I've been through. So I'm just trying to get people to think outside the box a little bit. So, but definitely seek medical advice or seek professional help. There are some great tools available for people who are serious alcoholics here in 2017. And for as much as I talk about how I dislike Western medicine, from the field of alcoholism and addiction recovery, there are some very, very valuable tools available to you, you guys. So seek help. Don't be embarrassed. You're worth it. These people see people all the time that are going through what you've been through. They understand how your psychology works. They know that you're going through a very hard, difficult time. They're there to help you. Don't be afraid or embarrassed to reach out. I wish I would have. Excuse me. I didn't. I was too embarrassed at 3 a.m. while I was going through the DTs to wake up a loved one to drive me to the ambulance or to the ER. I couldn't even get out of bed. I couldn't function. Tried sending people text messages to have someone to talk to, and I was so inebriated, I was so intoxicated on a lack of having alcohol in my system. I was having such strange hallucinations, and I had so much fear moving through my soul. My body felt so weird that I couldn't even figure out how to say hey on my phone to a friend. Horrible experience. Now you think that after I went through that, I would have learned my lesson, but you got to remember, you guys, that how would I say this? We all make mistakes. Again, it's how we pick ourselves up after we've fallen. But if you continue to fall over and over and just go, oh, I'll just get sober again. No, that'll end up humbling you. you'll end up doing something stupid or hurting yourself. Trust me. So, what I've learned is you can only ask for a second chance so many times. Eventually it gets to a point where it's like, okay, enough's enough. So, be smart. Alcohol is a poison. It is a poison, you guys. There's no benefit from drinking alcohol in excessive amounts. Now, I can understand if you're a responsible drinker. I mean, there's some social situations where alcohol can be applied, you name it. But for alcoholics, no. It just doesn't work like that. So, a lot of people are using alcohol and substance abuse to actually deal with the stresses of life, whether that be anxiety or depression. Now, once you get yourself into once you get your body and your mind adjusted to that, and once you get yourself into a situation where you become so familiar with you abusing substances to deal with reality, it makes reality a horrible place to live when you try to get sober. The whiplash effect of that, you guys, is absolutely hellish. Because now you don't have that little pill or that drink or whatever it is to actually numb yourself to the point where you can deal with reality. So you can get yourself into a pit by using substances that make you feel more normal or make you feel better about yourself. And then when you don't have that anymore, you just feel worse than you did before you started getting hooked on whatever it is you got hooked on, whether it be alcohol, opiates, you name it. So, speaking to a therapist or getting yourself involved in some type of community group about anxiety or depression, you name it, it's going to be much more beneficial. Communication can solve a lot more problems a lot faster and a lot more efficiently and effectively than substance abuse. So you're listening to someone who's made pretty much all the mistakes there is to make when it comes to alcoholism. Again, I've hurt people that I've loved. I've said things to people that I care for deeply that I can never take back, and I have to live with that burden in my heart until then I get to carry that on into the next world. And no matter how many ways I attempt to clear it, no matter how many times I do, let go of it, or no matter how well I pick myself up and stay sober, it doesn't take away from the fact that those things happened in the physical world, and those are memories that have been built not only within my own self, but the people that I hurt. So, if you're the type of alcoholic that cannot learn that by hurting people, that should be motivation enough to get away from your addiction, if you can't handle yourself, if you're a raging alcoholic like I am when I drink, and you can't say, okay, I'm hurting people I love, this is not okay, I need to get away from booze. If you can't do that, then you, chances are going to fall into the same trap that I fell into, that I put myself into, which is you are going to be led into a frightening experience with alcohol that's going to attempt to terrify the living Hades out of you into making you submit to realizing that you need to be sober. It is not fun. It is not worth it. The scars from those withdrawal experiences continue to haunt me daily in some way or another. It created an entire anxiety disorder and a panic attack disorder that I'm still working to get rid of. You do not want that. Because when you're in a situation where for over a handful of days you actually believe that you're in the process of dying, and your heart's pounding, and you're going through these experiences where you're hearing things, you're hearing evil sounding circus children laughing, telling you that you're gonna die, or this and that. When you're going through those experiences, the trauma from those experiences stabs so deep into the soul that it actually becomes an imprint, a tattoo on the soul that is very difficult to let go of, let alone forget. And the mental and psychological trauma, not to mention the physical trauma that happens from these experiences with extreme withdrawals, can actually remap the way that your mind works And it can lead to serious panic disorders, anxiety disorders. It can make you into the biggest hypochondriac overnight. You have no clue. Because again, you're for a prolonged period, you think you're dying. You have no peace of mind in these experiences other than short bursts of slight peace where you feel a little bit better than you did. But then you fall right back into it because that's how it works. So, but again, you guys, the trauma from these experiences is so profound on the psyche because it's psychosomatic. You actually feel like your physical body's dying. You start regretting all sorts of things. What will happen oftentimes when you're going through delirium tremens or extreme alcohol withdrawals is you'll have this kaleidoscope, almost photographic memory that run through your mind's eye where you can also almost see it and touch it. It's tangible. And you have all these visuals running through your head of all the great memories in your life and then how you're losing them all. And it makes you feel like you had so much potential. You were almost there. You almost made your mark and now you're losing it. The trauma from this is exponential. It will continue to haunt you. So learn from it. If you've gone through it, don't start drinking again. If you've made it through those experiences, man, because most of the time you don't even think you're going to make it through it. And when your liver feels like it's inflamed, when your heart's burning so bad that you feel like you're almost having a heart attack, when you're going through all this mental stuff in your head and you're having these visual hallucinations and you're hearing things, and I mean the list could go on and on and on. Now I'm not going to talk too heavily about those things. I'm not trying to scare people, but this is why I recommend that if you're currently a drinker, a heavy alcoholic, if you know that you're going to have withdrawals when you let go of the bottle, you need to seek medical help. You need to talk to someone, and that way you can be at least shown a handful of different tools and different ways that you can go about treating this. That's going to make the experience far less psychologically traumatic, because chances are if you're drinking heavily, you already have some type of psychological, I'm not going to call it a disorder, but some type of something going on, which is actually kind of, you know, most people who drink heavily, you guys have some depression issues, whether they acknowledge it or not. And that's okay. It's okay to be depressed in a crazy world. But all I'm saying is that to go through the DTs and these withdrawal experiences, if you already have pre-existing psychological stuff going on, some mental stuff, chances are it's going to make it a hell of a lot worse. So if you seek help prior to trying to tackle these things, it can help a lot. Can help a lot. There's different Western treatments that can actually help you fall asleep when you're going through the withdrawals and help you fall asleep while you're going through the DTs. And let me tell you, that's one thing that I wish I could have had when I was going through these things. I slept for a little over a week and a half. I got hardly any sleep. The only times I would fall asleep is when my body was so tired that my mind actually couldn't even stay in tune with it anymore, and I would just drift off into these little 20-minute naps and wake up and start going through it all over again. So, I mean, that's one thing with people with withdrawals. That's one thing that leads to the withdrawals becoming even that much more intense, is that you want to sleep so badly. Your body is in need of rest so badly, but you just can't seem to slip into a sleep, because every time you close your eyes, you're having visual hallucinations or you're hearing things. It's very common to hear certain music repeating over in your head like it's actually playing right next to you. It's a very, very horrible experience. But your body is literally just begging for rest, and your mind just won't let it happen. So that's why I like to, I'm not a huge proponent of Western medicine, but when it comes to stuff like this, they've got some awesome stuff, some great tools, some valuable resources. So why not look at your options? It's saved many, many people's lives. again, they have certain medications that can help calm the experience to such an extent where it's nowhere near as frightening as it would be if you were going about it on your own, like I did. Very foolishly I did that, but I can see why I did it. I had kind of a strange handful of events that took place where it kind of just happened on its own. I didn't really even have time to think about it. I was so terrified for my life. I kind of just, at the time, just slipped into this certain pattern of sobriety, and one thing led to another. I made it through to the other side, but it wasn't easy. It wasn't fun. It wasn't peaceful. Did I learn a lot from it? Yeah. Do I look back and say, oh, I'm glad I learned from that? I'm disappointed that I had to learn from that. That makes me question what the heck it was I was thinking at the time. These experiences are very humbling. They will just throw you down in the dirt and force you to pick yourself up and really readdress who it is that you are. That alone can be psychologically traumatizing. So, again, you guys, I'm going to talk in the second section. I'm going to break this thing up into sections. I will put dog off in the distance barking. I will put a clip at the beginning of this video talking about which sections. I mean, if you want to skip forward to certain sections, I'll show you guys at what time in the video, like the supplements thing is, so you can skip forward to that and look at that if you want, or you know, things to do to combat the traumatizing effect of what it is to come out of, or go through withdrawals and come out of it. But I'm not sure if that made sense. I think it did. Again, running on a lack of sleep. But again, I put a disclaimer in this video. It's very important because I'm just telling you what worked for me. I'm not recommending you do anything that I'm going to talk about. I'm not even recommending that you even use the potions, the tonics that I'm going to show how to make. I'm just showing you what worked for me. But always seek medical advice. Don't take my word as medical advice, because it's far from that, and it's not. It is not professional advice. I wanted to create something for someone to watch who's interested in cleaning up their act and getting sober. And I'm far from perfect. I don't claim to be perfect. I've made a handful of mistakes. I've relapsed. I'm not going to talk about those things in this video. Some things need to be kept private. I don't need to broadcast to the world all of my mistakes. I think I've already publicly told everyone about plenty of them. But we're going to break this thing down into sections. I'm even going to talk about hangovers, what they are. And I mean, there's a handful of different degrees of hangovers, you guys. I mean, there's moderate hangovers. There's hangovers that slightly resemble bad withdrawal symptoms, depending on how much you've drank. So, but again, I really do think that most alcoholics, I can't technically say all of them because I don't know for a fact, but with everyone I've communicated with about it, and I've talked to a handful of people who drink a lot and continue to, is that they have some psychological issues going on. They have depression issues. But when you use something which is a depressant, and alcohol is a depressant, it's categorized as a depressant, excuse me. When you use that to combat and try to nullify the way you feel, it just makes things worse. And what you end up doing is you start digging a hole that you think is leading to somewhere good, but it's leading to your demise. It gives you something at the expense of taking twice as much as it gives you. It's a con. It's evil. It's very evil. But I think a lot of people don't approach alcohol as if it's super dangerous, because you can buy it at the common supermarket. It's available everywhere. It's available at gas stations. The place where you're going to drive and operate a 4,000-pound machine, you can buy wine, you can buy beer, you can buy pretty much anything to suit your fix or what it is you need, your addiction. And I just thought that was always the strangest thing, that the place where you're supposed to be coming in to be a responsible driver, you could buy a can of Tall Boys and crack them and start driving. This world makes no sense. Addiction is everywhere. You can see shades of addiction all over the place. As a culture, we drink way too much alcohol and we abuse way too many substances. And part of the reason, you guys, is that we live in a culture which in a sense venerates that. I mean, within Western medicine, there's a pill for every symptom. But treating symptoms with dangerous medications or alcohol doesn't get rid of the cause of the symptom. And that's the flaw of most of Western medicine. Yes, there's great things in it, such as the recovery tools for addiction. But as a culture, we've become accustomed to the idea that there's a pill to fix my problem. What about going to the root of the problem and looking at it without bias and being honest with yourself? That, in my opinion, is where the real healing is going to take place. So you've got to ask yourself, why do you drink? Why are you continuing to do this? For me, I like the way I feel when I drink. I like the way I feel invincible. I like the lack of... I don't like it when I'm in that state. I think I do. I like the lack of fear I have when it comes to what I say. I like the escape from reality where it almost makes things feel more adventurous. But it's all a con. And not only is it taking your health away, but it's also taking your finances away, and it could potentially make you lose a loved one. You could lose friends. You can do stupid things that will make people not trust you. It's a horrible path. It really is. It's absolutely horrible. So this was just kind of a preliminary discussion before we get on into the other sections of this video. But if you've made it this far in this video, thank you for watching. And I do hope that this video can benefit you in some way. Even if it is to just make you question what it is you're doing. Or, question seeking medical advice. Or motivating you to seek medical advice, professional help. It's essential. Throughout the video, I'm going to be putting annotations on the screen. Stuff like, for more information, annotations where you can find more content of mine if you're interested. Or if you're even interested in donating to my channel and supporting my cause. So there will be briefly from time to time annotations on the screen. I just wanted to kind of address a few things before we get into the bulk of this message. I may end up tethering most of my videos that are pre-existing about alcohol to the end of this video. I plan on making this video anywhere from 2 hours to 4 hours long, this new one. But if I end up tethering the old videos to this, it may make it close to 8. Now, it's a pretty bulky piece of video content, but it could actually come in really beneficial to actually have everything categorized into one video, because I know a lot of people who are going through this experience with withdrawals and trying to get sober, they've contacted me and said, you know what, thank you for the longer videos. It allowed me to kill some time while I was going through these experiences, while, receiving some hope, and it wasn't so short that I had to just turn it off immediately. They could actually get through a really rough period while watching these videos. So I think an 8-hour video might be a good thing to have access to if you are going through some nasty withdrawal symptoms, guys. And I hope that if you're watching this video and you aren't a heavy drinker like I was, maybe you're a moderate drinker, or maybe you are on the cusp of becoming a heavy drinker, maybe this video can help inspire you to think twice about what it is you're doing. Because it gets to a point, in my opinion, where once you start drinking heavily over and over and over, your karma actually aligns you to make certain mistakes as little roadblocks to try to motivate you to get you to walk the other direction. If you don't listen to those mistakes, if you don't listen to the soft voice inside of you that's trying to tell you to walk the other way, that soft voice will have a whiplash effect, and it's not going to be so soft when it teaches you your first lesson. And once you ignore the first lesson and you now have to get taught your second lesson, it's going to be even stronger, and it builds and builds and builds in momentum until you get to a point where if you don't stop soon, that next mistake could be your life or the life of another. Is that worth it? So again, you guys, I'm not claiming to be perfect. I've relapsed a handful of times. I mean, there's been so many times where I've tried to get sober. There were long periods where I was. It's just stay on track. Take some deep breaths. Worry about getting through the first night, the first day. Once you do that, set yourself up in blocks where, okay, I've made it through the first night, now let's get to 3 days. And reward yourself for getting through those periods, but don't reward yourself with unhealthy endeavors. It's so common for the typical alcoholic to go, okay, I've been sober for like 2 months now, I can have a drink, I deserve it. I got through it. I know I don't have to. I can tell I'm not reliant on alcohol. That person has a drink. What do you think happens the next night? 9 times out of 10. I'm going to drink again. I've been sober for 2 months. I feel fine. My body's regenerated. I can tackle this. It doesn't have a hold on me. I'm fine. Third day comes. That person's thinking about drinking the whole entire day, usually, if they're an alcoholic. But again, there's different degrees of alcoholism. I mean, alcoholism is just an addiction to alcohol, but there are different degrees, ladies and gentlemen, just like there's different degrees in tobacco addiction. There's people that can smoke 2 cigarettes a day, and there's people who want to smoke 2 packs a day, or 4 packs a day. So, I hope you enjoy this video, and I sure as heck hope you benefit from it. So let's move on to the next segment. While you have your eyes closed and you're receiving the sunlight, as you're standing barefoot, look at diet, you've got to look at water. The water people are drinking here in the Matrix, the tap water, is filled full of disinfectant byproducts, cancer-causing agents, fluoride, hydrofluorosilicic acid, hexafluorosilicic acid, pipe residues, inorganic compounds, scaling lime, algicides, cobalts, radioactive constituents, plutonium, parasites. Some of the wastes that are stuck inside of the colonic walls in the lower bowel. So certain eye muscle exercises where you move your eyes in certain direct current energy. So walking barefoot is one of the pinnacle aspects, other than things like collecting rainwater. We can be our own farmers and grow a lot of our own food, ladies and gentlemen. We don't have to resort to buying murdered animals from corrupt organizations and things of that nature. We don't have to consume these foods to have a healthy lifestyle. My health has gone nowhere but up since I became a vegan. Authentic Kundalini awakenings actually stimulate dormant parts of your brain and your physiology, your spinal system, your cerebrospinal fluid, you name it. And when that happens, it just enlightens the gland. the goji berries in it and the schizandra. But I also talk later on in this video about how damaging constituents, and these constituents are known as accumulative poisons. They accumulate over time, and they get lodged in your tissues, they get lodged in your kidneys, your liver, you name it.